Well, hello, Wyoming. Welcome, welcome. This is webinar number 11. I'm Carmen Bowman. It's been my distinct privilege to get to work with all of you in Wyoming. Did you know you have a very special grant project going on for 3 years? I'm going to tell you all about it more towards the end because I'm recruiting people and I need to announce a lot of stuff coming up in March. So why don't we dig into this, and then I'll have more time at the end to tell you more about everything happening in Wyoming. So um, for 3 years, I get to present a monthly training, and I get to tweak it as we go. Notice the topic today. Thankfully, we were given permission to do that depending on the needs of nursing homes in Wyoming. And so this is a very timely topic everywhere, not just in Wyoming. And I call it Living Life Outside of Groups. Let's just think about this for a minute, everyone. People who live in a nursing home, even if they go to all the groups, still have a life outside of groups, don't they? And we don't have groups 24/7, do we? And a lot of people don't go to all those groups, do they? Maybe some, maybe a few. And a lot of people don't go to any, right? So I contend this has been an issue even before a pandemic, that we have to get better at looking at the life people are living and not be so focused on whether or not people come to groups or how many groups there are on the calendar. Okay. So I'm going to dispel the pressures that you have to hold groups. And no matter what your discipline is, I believe this can be very beneficial for your whole team. So hang on tight. And I always like to say thank you to the Wyoming State Survey Agency and the CMS Region 8 who approved this grant. It's called Implementing Culture Change Throughout Wyoming, Affecting Resident Directed Living and Team Member Retention. How do you like that? We were looking at retention even before a pandemic hit. And so to be honest, everyone, when you chip away at a very rigid institutional culture, guess what? Whether you ever read a report or not, it affects everything. All the outcomes we're looking for, everything's better, including team members want to stay there and work there, or maybe come to work there because they hear what you're doing, and people want to live there. And I won't have a lot of time to do a lot of language today, so notice what I'm not saying. It does not say person-centered care. Did you know that that was outdated the minute that CMS actually typed it in into the new regs in 2016? And so we actually referred to it back then as resident directed living um, in the culture change movement. And I really want to promote that, everyone. We need to focus more on the life people are living and less on the care that we are giving. The care gets all the attention. And here's some other language. Notice it doesn't say employees, it doesn't even say staff retention. The word staff, what is that? Think about these words. So team member, look at the power in the words, right? Each one of you are equal and important, and you are a team. And we have to say out loud, we have to remind each other out loud, we are a team. We're for each other, not against. And team member is very equal. Everyone's equal. So if you like that language, we're welcome to join us. Now, I'd love for you to think about this for a minute, just in your own brain. Where does all the pressure come from to hold these group activities? Do you feel a pressure? Ponder for a minute. Where does it come from, though? And here comes a poll. If y'all can get ready to do a poll, I'm going to launch the poll. Poll. And you're seeing the questions, and I will walk you through them as well. So I'm sorry, I don't know. I think it's only going to let you vote once. You can try more than one if you want. But where does it come from? Does it come from the administrator? Does it come from survey and regs? Does it come from the profession itself, the activity, recreation, life enhancement profession, or from residents? And I realize it's more than one, but would you make yourself try to answer it? And is it working? I don't see anybody doing the poll. Phooey. So what is happening? Should I try to, oh, here we go. Thank you guys. Here we go. Handout is in the chat box, everyone. If you need the handout, it is uploaded in the chat box. So where does the pressure come from? So far, we have, wow, 100% of you say, oh, I'll end the poll. and show the poll, share the results. Hopefully you're seeing it. 100% from survey and regs. So, okay, that is what I'm going to highlight today, guys. Are you ready? I'm going to highlight that the reg says nothing about there shall be this many groups. Did you know that? So it'll be my honor to show you that. But before we leave the others, sometimes administrators have their own pressure to have life in this place look good. And they put the pressure on the activity team. I want to see more activities. I want to see more on the calendar. Did you know right now we have activity directors being told that if you get so many people to a group, then you'll get a bonus? What is happening? I've also heard that because of that, activity directors are telling residents that I might lose my job if you don't come to this activity. Holy moly, are we in trouble? This is very bad. So here we go, guys. We have a lot to look at. Now, within our own profession, of course, we want lots of things to do, lots on the calendar, full, rich, we feel better. You can sleep at night, right? When it feels like a full calendar. And you know what I want to say there, guys? And this is to me too, I was one. It ends up being all about us when we feel better that the calendar looks fuller or the administrator is smiling upon us, That's so weird. And it's the wrong place to put the emphasis. And then of course, if residents want more things to do, sure. But what are they really saying that they want? Is it really groups? And I want to talk more about that. So, there is this pressure, where you in this business, you don't want white space so much on that calendar. Isn't that funny? I just got off another call and we're planning education and they're very education minded people, right? And someone said that for adult learning, you need more white space. And on a slide, like, sorry, my slides probably have too many. They say you should never have more than 3 bullets on a slide, which, I get it. And I'm sorry and give me feedback. But isn't that ironic? On a calendar, we don't want white space. On slides, I probably should have some. Hey, here's some white space with a question to think about. The other pressure tends to be to have lots of residents at the group, right? Well, I want to tell you just one sad story out of many. You've all seen this, okay? I was a surveyor in Colorado years ago, and I'm watching what's going on with my 3 sample residents, they're called during a survey. And sure enough, someone, a team member, came and got one of my sample residents. Did they invite her? Nope. Did they talk to her? Nope. They just took her. They wheeled her from her room to the activity, which was, I believe, entertainment. And she sat there and nobody engaged with her. And then they took her back to the room. And do you know what that really is, everyone? Can any of you see this in your mind's eye? Watch. That is a check mark, my friends. Who feels better when there's more check marks on the activity participation records? When in fact, it did perhaps, I wanted to say nothing for that person, not that I know of, and maybe it did, but notice who's it all about when it's a check mark. So there it is. Can someone be taken to a group and not even engaged with? Look at this. I found it in some research. Residents believed they were allowed to have private lives in their apartment, but were expected to participate in the public spaces of the home. This suggestion of cultural pressure for the older adults to be active participants in the home seemed to place blame on the older adults if they did not wish to participate in the home's community. Interesting. So how do people feel in your community, residents, the people who live there? Some of you have changed over to the term neighbor. I'll try to use them all. How do the neighbors, the people who live where you only work, how do they feel when they don't want to go to a group? Do they feel pressure? Isn't that interesting to think about? In fact, guys, when did this become kind of like the litmus test, right? When did this become part of a person's identity who lives in a nursing home? In my opinion, this is terrible. Look at this. Resident was recently admitted. That's very old language. Oh, it's hard for me to read. We should say resident recently moved in but seems reluctant to become involved in out of room activity. May be open to some activities as time allows. Do you see the pressure? Like, who's the bad person? The person's reluctant to become involved in out of room activity. Isn't that sad? So should that be the focus? It's so sad to me. This, you run into this everywhere. Resident refuses activities. Who's the bad one? You see? Shame on them. And get this, one time I'm talking to my young Mary Kay consultant. One time, okay? Her grandma moves into independent living. And the next words out of my friend Melissa's mouth was, well, my grandma doesn't really, she's not really an activity person. She doesn't really go to those group activities. So, and notice it was like, it's like that was the identity from the get-go, whether or not someone goes to groups. That is not people's identity, everyone. That is not the standard. So when did whether someone attends group activities or not become the standard? Please be aware of this, Wyoming. Do not let it happen. And now think about this to get out of the room. Now, who gets to decide that that's better for people? See, I'm calling myself out here. In this business, we tend to think, oh, they need to get out of their room. They need to. They need to. It's better to get out of the room. Well, that woman got out of her room and for nothing really, and then went back to her room. Is that what it's all about? Is that the best we can do? So now, certainly, I know it is good to get out of your room and good to get out of the house. But if we put that pressure on people, that I don't know is the right way to do it, right? I contend that we can make life more interesting. We can tap into what people really want to experience. And guess what? Getting out of the room will be natural. And I don't even mean to be sneaky. Just think about it. Real life, if there's real life going on, if there's a coffee bar, who's coming out of their room for that? Anybody? Right? Look at this. Another one. Resident refuses activities. I just want to let you all be, you know, you've probably thought it, but I want to articulate it. That's harsh. It's judgmental. We say it about everything. Resident refuse bath. Resident refuses. Guess what? It is their right to refuse. And a much softer way to say it is that this person declines. So they decline the bath right now. That's not good or bad. It's their life, it's their choice. So if nothing else, please take that word to your culture, to your team, and it softens everything. She declined. And the word decline implies she had a choice. Isn't that cool? Now, hopefully, you live up to that too, that you actually do give choice in when to bathe. Did you know culture change teams figure out how to do this? And it's no big deal if you don't want your bath right now, someone else might. It's no big deal. We'll check back with you. And an institutional practice is to say, fine, you missed your bath. You can't have another one. I hope that's not going on in Wyoming. All right. So, what is the focus supposed to be? Here's some other weird language. Is it really supposed to be about activity programming? How many of you, talk about your activity programming in your real life? Is it about being busy, being occupied, having something to do? I hear fidgeting a lot, everyone. There's nothing wrong with that. We're trying to get at something, but I want to encourage you all. When you want to say fidget, what it really means is they're looking for something to do, right? Not just fidget. Notice how, well, she needs a fidget toy. That stuff like that comes out. No, that's not what adults do. Adults do things, and we have to be challenging ourselves on what it is this adult would like to be doing with all this time they have on their hands. Take it on as a great challenge, everyone. Um, and to be honest, maybe they don't want to do anything, right? Maybe someone, just needs something to touch, right? A soft blanket, a weighted blanket. I'm going to give you lots of ideas. And then I just want to challenge that as well. Why are we always about doing, doing, doing? In this field, you are paid to plan things for people to do, but maybe they don't want to do anything. And that's okay too, right? Dr. Bill Thomas of the Eden Alternative brought this up early on in our culture change movement. He said, older people, elders, and younger people are very good at just being. It's us in the adult, he calls it the cult of adulthood. So really it's the working adult life, right? We have so many things we must do at work, at home, and so we are all about doing, aren't we? But when someone doesn't have all that going on, they're much better at simply being. They can just be, right? Be together. Isn't that great? Oh, okay. So, what does the federal reg say and what do state regs say? What is the focus supposed to be? Do you know? Well, this is one very long sentence from the federal government. It is a new sentence. However, it incorporates some old part of the reg, and it adds some new portions. So here we go. Did you know that your home, by the way, in the culture change movement, none of us use that F word, and you're welcome to refer to it as such if you want to, just to make fun of it, to make light of it, to bring it attention to it. So your nursing home must provide, based on the comprehensive assessment and care plan, and this is new, the preferences of each resident. Ooh, good word. If you're not doing preferences, everyone, go do it. It's a beautiful word. It speaks volumes to a person to ask what their preferences are, right? An ongoing program to support residents. Support is new, by the way, in their choice of activities. That is also new. So preferences, support, and choice is new. Both facility sponsored group and individual activities, there really should be a comma here, to be honest, because now this is different, and independent activities. So what does the facility sponsor, your nursing home sponsor? Group and individual activities. And then sometimes people do their very own independent thing, right? Designed to meet what? Designed to meet the interests of and support the physical, mental, and psychosocial well-being of each resident, encouraging both independence and interaction in the community. Whew, that's a mouthful. But if you're not really going after preferences, take this moment to decide you're going to bring that word up more often with everything, not just with what you want to do, right? Or quote unquote activities, or better yet, people's interests. So preferences regarding interests is here, but preferences are all over the regs now. So go after preferences for everything. In fact, I recommend we start care planning preferences more than anything else. Things will go well if you do that, okay? And then notice the word choice. Start bringing that up more. And support. How can I support you and your preferences? And what would you choose to do if you could do anything, right? What do you choose to do out of what we offer? Okay. And then notice that the bottom line, everything hinges on the person's interests. And that's what I love kind of unraveling for everybody. The tag title should almost be interest. That would be very helpful as well. The word activities we don't use so much anymore. It's not a common word. You and I don't use it in our normal language day to day. I don't say, hey, Sabina, what activities did you do on the weekend? We just don't talk like that, right? So let today be the day that you support one another in starting to take the pressure off of whether or not there are groups, and put the pressure where it belongs, everyone, on whether or not we're doing a great job of learning people's interests. Sadly, we could probably do a lot better. But I want to just point out here, it doesn't say there shall be this many groups. It doesn't say to care plan for the problems people are having. Notice the word problem does not show up. That's an old word. Hopefully you don't use it anymore. This is not about problems. This is about people's interests in life. It could say life interests. That'd be interesting too. And, during COVID for a while, I don't know if you guys did this in Wyoming or not, but a lot of states got hung up on a COVID care plan. We better have a COVID care plan. See, I contend that wouldn't have been necessary if we were focused on interests, right? Maybe some groups weren't taking place, but we are very tuned into what people's interests are. And boom, we switched over to perhaps doing things alone, or, the whole story, room to room, over Zoom, room to room, over Zoom. What else? Maybe sweeping with a broom. Oh dear. Okay, so the regulations say the focus is to be what? You know how they say in real estate, location, location, location. Just for fun, I want to encourage you to talk about interest, interest, interest. What are this person's, you know, you could categorize it if you want. Interests that they can do in the room, interests they can do with another person, interests they can do over Zoom, interests they can do, um, you know, in all these different methods in a group. And then is the group able to meet or not? You see, let the interest drive the ways of pursuing the interest. And then I am here to tell you, we are sort of getting the idea that people living in nursing homes, many of them don't want all those groups. Okay. This took place, what I'm going to tell you now, probably 10 plus years ago, way before we even heard about COVID, right? And the Java group is serving people with dementia. And look what's on the blog years ago. I don't see, oh my goodness. I don't see a year there, but it says, I don't do groups. 5 helpful tips to promote purpose and meaningful relationships. Why? Because people say I don't do groups, even living with dementia. Whoa, what does that tell us, right? And then here's another profound example that I heard years ago in North Dakota. I'm speaking at an activity, doing a workshop all day, and kind of talking about this idea of, real life versus institutional group activities. And an activity director pipes up and says, "Yep, it's happening." And her story was that the people living in the nursing home came to her and said, "Honey, we really don't want all those groups. And we really just go to them to make you feel better." Wow. So notice we're adding burden to older people who already have plenty of burden, a pressure to go in order to make the activity director feel better. That's a bad pressure too, wouldn't you agree? So the wise activity director asked her friends who are older than her, "Well then, what would you like to be doing?" And notice what they say, everybody. "We just want to make lefse and go to the high school games." Do any of you know what lefse is? So in North Dakota, there's a lot of Norwegians and Swedes, and they make lefse, which is a potato tortilla, basically, and it is delicious. I come from this ethnicity, and notice basically they're saying, Courtney's saying yes, lefse, right? Yes, the high school games. And what I want to say, everybody, Brittany, so yummy, I know, with butter especially. What I want to say, guys, watch. If people want to make lefse and go to the games, you know what they're telling us? They want to live real life. They're begging us, everyone, to get away from the institutional, let's be honest, in some cases, contrived. You know that word, contrived? It's like we're just making up stuff for people to do because we feel bad because we think they're bored. But is that really what they want to do? Do they want to do anything, So I challenge you to start talking about real life. And Courtney is saying she actually worked in a home that made lefse quarterly in North Dakota. Now, I'm bad, I'm terrible, you guys, but notice the example, Courtney. They made it quarterly. It's beautiful, forgive me, but it kind of sounds institutional too. Can you hear that, everyone? I don't mean to dismiss people. We're all doing our best, right? So ask people what they really want to do. Really, really, really try to get them to answer it, okay? If they could do anything. Now, here's something else very interesting, okay? I spoke at an activity conference about a year ago, coming out of the first year of COVID, right? And look at this, you guys. Oh, look at this. At the activity directors conference, the opening was all about, oh my goodness, have you noticed? Residents are not coming out of their rooms. Oh, what are we going to do? And so there was a big group discussion. What are you doing to get residents out of their room? I don't agree with this. Anyone else? But it's proving the point because you probably can't see this. These are my notes from the conference. And let me see if I have it on the next note. Sorry. So guess what? From the crowd comes offer wine. Offer going outside. We offer to sit by the river. Wine and cheese on a cart. That's not out of the room, but sure, wine and cheese, right? Baking, root beer floats, music, getting their hair done, and having pampering days. Isn't that amazing? It proves the point, guys. See, real life. will get people out of their rooms. But I don't want you to have the goal of getting people out of their rooms. I think it's better that we have the goal of actually truly finding out people's interests, right? And meeting, being creative and meeting those interests. Is that our job to get people out of their rooms? Is that in the regulation? No. I'm so guilty, you guys. I was so proud for years that I figured out how to get Mrs. So and so out of her room. All I had to do was pop popcorn, right? And I felt better. And again, Carmen, for heaven's sake, who's it all about, really? So what, she got out of her room, guys. The point should have been she loves popcorn, whether she comes out to get it or I take it to her, right? So please learn from my mistakes. Oh, there's the list that I just read. Oh, and I just love that is real life. So let it be stated. We need more wine, more going outside, getting to the river, wine and cheese, some real baking. Don't call it a baking activity. No, just have real baking. Honor people. If some older woman was famous in her family for her cinnamon rolls, that's the point. We're going to help her to continue to be famous for her cinnamon rolls. It's not an activity, it's not a little activity. Sometimes when we do real life, you guys, it's funny. I hear people say, well, we do this little activity with the residents where they help paint in the hallway. Like it's wonderful that they're painting. Let it be real, everyone. It's weird. I think we're shy to do real life. Isn't that sad? So guess what? In the maintenance team, oh my gosh, yes, they should solicit perhaps men, it could be women who like to paint, who like to do stuff like that, to hang out with them, to offer consulting advice and to paint. And of course it should be safe. Like I shouldn't even have to bring that up, everybody. If a person with dementia would the table, if I pick my nose a lot, maybe don't have me set the tables, right? But I could clear them probably. See, so just bring common sense to it instead of panic is what I've learned. Root beer floats, more music, more karaoke, more dances, talent shows, a band, a choir. See, guys, come on, real life. And then what also happens sadly is when this weird word activities, like have you ever seen this? If a resident's having a bad day, I'm choosing not to say behaviors, that's institutional. Sometimes other team members, I won't pick on nursing, might say, well, take her to activities. And then sadly, the activity team sort of hears because they'll babysit. And let's just be aware of that. I'm going to call that out, everyone. Just speak in the language of real life. This person is having a bad day. And then brainstorm. And who's the right person? Who's closest to them? Doesn't matter what their job is, right? By the way, a neat idea is to help people get outside, maybe even if it's cold. It does something to shake you up, if you're having a bad day, having behavioral symptoms, and consider gum, everybody. Gum stimulates the brain, the chewing, the fresh mint, let's say, also creates like a reset to our brains, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. We need more gum, Wyoming. And all of that I'm saying here is not anyone's fault. Let's blame the institution instead of each other, okay? Perhaps we all need to say more often, we are a team, everybody. No one is against anyone on this team. We are a team. We're going to help each other. We're going to get through this. I'm sure you've had to do that perhaps more than other times, but keep saying it. Don't let the institutional silos or the weird ways of doing things, stop you anymore. Now, I have to tell you a story. Carter Catlett Williams, this beautiful older woman here, is one of the original pioneers of the Pioneer Network. That is the culture change movement nationally. And she herself got older, as we all are, and she moved off of the family estate. How interesting. Into, I believe it was independent living a few years ago. Okay. And guess what? It didn't last long, and she moved back to her home estate. And here's why. She's going to tell you. She says, now I was joining them and was emphatic to set myself apart. Society has done a number on us, even me, a geriatric social worker of 40 years, that a person with manifestations of aging is not a beautiful human being. The generations must find a way to share daily life. Elders need the stimulation of young people to offer encouragement and sometimes, yes, words of caution. Elders need relationships with middle ages. Children and young people need firsthand contact with elders that old age is not a strange foreign country to them. I'm convinced we must offer multi-generational housing. Now she brings up housing, don't check out everyone. We could we could put in there multi-generational life. We need to bring in people. Homes have opened up, right? CMS has opened up visitation. Think all ages. Let's not be confined to one stage of life. Educate yourselves and others about this new way of living because we belong together, not in ghettos of old age or single age culture. What I see in the current culture is largely programmatic. A varied program of activities is offered, trips to restaurants, ice cream shops, as well as places of historic interest, shopping trips, and many in-house activities. With such a wealth of activities, what could be lacking? What is lacking is real life. Real life is not found in programs. Real life is in the give and take of everyday life. Our living in the apartment or touring bus screens us off of everyday life. We're turned in on ourselves. What is there to talk about other than times past or the faulty air conditioning? Beware of confusing programs with real life. My favorite line ever. Programs have their place, but life in the wide world is not programmable. Woo! Life is filled with surprises, with hope as well as setbacks, with affirming as well as unsettling experiences. As shapers and leaders of a new culture, we must be very clear that the culture we are building does not rest on programs, but on knowing each person, valuing what each person has to give, and then enabling each to give that contribution. Then we will be on the side of life. Carter passed away during COVID about a year ago, I believe. And she's saying it all, everyone. Take these quotes and share them widely. Take them to resident council, take them to family council, take them to your leadership meeting, take them to your team, your activity recreation team. Start giving yourselves permission to focus on real life and not these programs. So, what if we did a transition, everyone, away from just groups as the focus? Okay. If your people want groups, then they want groups. But just this weird focus on groups needs to fade away. And instead, let's start looking at the individual, their interests. And then another concept and word we're bringing out a lot is engagement. I like saying meaningful engagement, right? So, not so much about activity programming, but instead about both individualized engagement and also moving to just engaging in real life. So let's see, fun idea. I call it consider creating an expectancy of engagement. So let's say residents, people are watching Prices Right. You or I go up to the TV, we say something about whatever they're looking at. How much did a car cost in your day, Fred? And then we play a little Vanna White and we walk away. How many seconds of engagement was that? And there's our challenge, everyone. What if you agreed that we're going to create a new expectancy that we all engage people for what? 5 seconds, 30 seconds. Isn't that cool? What if everyone did that, you guys? Now, I know you can't every single time, but what if you up the ante a little bit and said, we do have this expectation, engage. It doesn't take that long. Do something, anything, slow down and engage, maybe even stop. Think 5 seconds if you need to. Do something to create life, to create engagement, to create a connection. Guys, it's not just attention, right? It's connection. And if you talk about it and challenge each other to actually do it, no matter what your job is, oh my goodness, imagine. In fact, a social worker I know did this in her home many years ago. We've all had people that say, help me all day long, right? Help me, help me, help me, help me. If we were together, I'd ask you, what do they really mean? What are they really saying when they say, help me, help me? And oftentimes someone says this, they say, oh, they want attention. And notice this isn't anyone's fault, but that is a very negative way to say it. We all say it. And I want to teach you. Try to think of what the person really needs. Is it attention or is it connection, friendship, relationship, touch, someone to look at them, good eye contact, someone to listen to them, talk, have them talk and ask questions, listen, right? Isn't that cool? And so my friend, the social worker, had everyone take a pledge, and they pledged that they would never walk by Verna, who said, help me all day long, without engaging her for at least 5 seconds. Isn't that cool? And then a student of mine, I used to teach the activity professionals course in Colorado. She took that idea and she created an oath against boredom. Isn't that creative? And whenever anyone comes to work in that building during orientation, they have to take the oath against boredom. See, that now we're talking, everybody. And inviting people, a lot of times in this field, people need permission to live life with people. You know, they think that's not my job, I might get in trouble. Please don't let that happen. And the power of individualized engagement, everyone, it's just so powerful. I don't even have time to go into it. My favorite is that it can actually help prevent falls. Did you know that meaningful engagement is like a superpower? And it shouldn't just be your activities team. Anyone can say to a person before they leave them alone, hey, Mrs. Smith, would you like your photo album? Would you like me to switch out to a different photo album? Or whatever it is that you all know they love to do. And now you've left them not alone, but with some meaningful engagement, which of course relieves boredom, stress, perhaps loneliness, depending on what it is, let alone perhaps preventing a fall. I actually got to co-author a book about this, Alarms, the New Deficient Practice. Isn't that cool? That part is actually kind of past tense now because so many homes don't need alarms. However, some nursing homes still do, I guess. Eliminating alarms and preventing falls by engaging with life. And look at these photos. That man on the left is vacuuming for real, not pretend vacuuming, real vacuuming at the nursing home where he lives. There's a man painting. That man picked up the paint roller, I guess, one day and just started doing it. I think that is glorious. We need to offer that to men, everybody. Men in particular are probably more bored than a lot of women living in nursing homes, just as a general rule, right? Generalization. That's a real baby. I contend we need more real babies, guys. And here's the thing about babies. You can't just look at your activity director and say, hey, get some babies in here. Sure, that's a good idea. You know why? That particular person doesn't know enough babies. Babies grow up quickly. I would always be saying to my whole team, hey, everybody, if you have a baby or you know a baby, talk to the mama and invite them to come. We need them. And then, of course, not just babies, the toddlers, the 3-year-olds, right? The 4-year-olds, oh my gosh, all ages, like Carter said. And then that woman is really cooking. This is a household model nursing home, so it's a little easier, but it doesn't matter. People can cook in lots of different styles of homes, and that woman is really doing her laundry in the washer and dryer that is on the neighborhood. So think of meaningful engagement as a superpower that you all have, not just your activity team. Nurses, we need you to talk about engagement to prevent a fall, to prevent depression. See, it's so good. And let's watch let's watch a clip that has to do with superpowers. And it has to do with trying to fight against the 3 plagues of institutionalization. So the Eden Alternative defines boredom, loneliness, and helplessness as the 3 plagues of institutionalization. So they'll reference that in this video. Wait till you see this.
Hello, my name is Anthony Callister, and I work for Signature Healthcare. At Signature Healthcare, we have a mission to revolutionize healthcare forever, and I count it a privilege to do that work. When reflecting on 2020, the current pandemic, and all the many challenges that it brought us, I have to also say it's given us so many opportunities. More than ever before, our elders are under the spotlight of the globe, and you can believe they had something to say. Back in April, as a team, we knew that we needed to showcase our elders' voice and thoughts around COVID. The world wants to put them in a bubble and protect them, but our elders, they want to share their perspective. And that's really how we thought of Super. The original idea came from concept and the Superheroes Project that Elaine Malley organized in Milwaukee last year. Essentially, a community there built their own Justice League. What a great idea. After doing some research on that project, we decided to adapt it to fit our Super Summer was a 10-week creative engagement project that elders in our 109 communities participated in if they wished to. Each week, our elders received an engagement package of prompts that were designed to help them create and explore their own superhero identity. We all had one. What is Super Summer works? What the elders went through the prompts, which gave them frameworks for creating poetry, writing letters to their personal heroes, creating imagery that they related to on a personal level. And at the very end, putting together a superhero display sharing what they had discovered about the civil object. Here's an example. Each participant carried a shield of strength and were able to focus on their individual strengths rather than the feelings of helplessness associated with COVID. I think we could all use a shield of strength right now. Our quality of life directors, though, they're the true leaders of the project. While our project team worked behind the scenes to create the prompt, they committed to the work in the field. They committed to weekly meetings and discussions. And really, all of that set up the creative process of Super Summer. We identified the villains early on in the project. We really wanted it to be loneliness, helplessness, and boredom because we think each of us can relate to that on a personal level. Those are real villains in every single person's life. It's hard to identify a favorite prompt from Super Summer. All of them are really so beautiful. I think to pinpoint one would be the creative expression style represented in poetry. We have so many poets that Signature Healthcare and we didn't even realize it. One elder wrote an I am poem, which beautifully stated the words, I am nurturing, full of motherly love for my children and family. Isn't that beautiful? Another favorite part of the project for me was the elders create their superhero identity map. They have outlines and templates to share their not only vision, but they created heroes like art color and the traveler. I know I'm not sure if the villains were ever defeated or if they ever will be. Loneliness, helplessness, and boredom, they're everywhere. They've been around since the beginning. I do think, however, that when our elders are able to reflect on their strengths and focus on those more, they become stronger and more resilient. It also helps everyone around them too. That's really the whole purpose of creative projects like Super Summer. It brings awareness to the villains that every single one of us faces at some points in our lives. For our elders, this project gave the opportunity to delve into their deepest place and pull out their own courage. It teaches us all once again about the tenacity of a generation that so many are quick to label vulnerable right now. It continues to demonstrate their value, wisdom, and ultimately their fortitude to show us how things can and will be better.
Isn't that amazing, everyone? You can go to their website and they share some of that material if you want it. Go get it. All right, guess what else? How about more real life for those of you that work there? Staff, you get bored too? And, what if there was a atmosphere that you not only have permission, but you're a little bit expected to have fun and interact and connect and, you could get specific about this. I've seen teams where perhaps the evening CNA agrees to sing hymns with Mrs. Smith every time she works, and it's in the care plan. Isn't that cool? So you can get spontaneous to specific. It's all good. I've also seen administrators say things like, "Hey, managers, I want you to do one thing with the people who live here." Notice I didn't say activity. And beautiful, beautiful life comes from this. So don't say I want you to lead one group activity. Not everyone wants to do that. But I remember some of you know Brenda Hancock was at Cheyenne Care Center. She actually also did this. She heard that idea and did it as an administrator. And two powerful stories come out of that. She, Brenda, the administrator, would always lead a gardening club. And she's so funny. She would say, well, who better to learn how to garden from than older people who've done it their whole life? She's so funny and smart. And her, not her, I don't like that, but the DON, her partner, DON, she ended up doing root beer floats on Fridays. And notice the mandate was monthly. By the way, everybody, sometimes a mandate can be a very, very good thing. Isn't that ironic? It doesn't sound very culture changey, but I've learned that sometimes it takes a good mandate to help crack away, chip away from that institutional model. So if you tell people they must do good things, oh, good things come from that. You all could do that. Let's see, another, the home we learned that from years ago in Missouri, the way that that administrator would also do it, what he would say that he wanted there to be a spontaneous activity, I think was his language, every day from the whole neighborhood. Isn't that creative? And so, see, it was a good mandate and it created more spontaneity, right? So good. And then another neat thing you all could do is dine with residents. There was an administrator in Colorado. She dined with a different table of residents every time she worked. And you know what she would always say? I know what goes on in my building. So everybody go dine with the residents. You all can do it. Make it okay. Make it work, right? And look at this. This is from the guidance of the same tag we've been looking at. Surveyors need to be aware that some homes may take a non-traditional approach. In nursing homes where culture change philosophy has been adopted, all staff may be trained as nurse aides or universal workers and may be responsible to provide activities which may resemble those of a private home. The provision of activities should not be confined to a department, no, but rather may involve all staff interacting with residents. We all know that's ideal, right? Did you know it's also in the guidance? So you could lean on it. And then instead of fidgeting, like I said, what makes sense for this adult to have, even with dementia? I always jump to the hardest case, okay? The short attention span. I think a lot of older people might enjoy a deck of cards. There's a lot of different things you can do, and it doesn't matter if you did it right or wrong, right? Magazines, everyone. Think of the thousands of magazines that are out there. I would vote that every resident has at least one subscription to a magazine of their own, maybe more. Think of all the flipping through magazines. See, that's what adults do. Adults don't play with busy boards, and adults don't usually have robotic animals in their house, you see. Maybe books, beautiful photo books, you know, the places you always wished you went to or you did go to and you brought the book home. Guess what? These kind of books, everybody, you can find at the thrift store. Here's proof. Here's my most recent. I doubt I'll get there, so I bought the book. And it proves the point. It's like brand new because people buy it when they go there and they rarely ever look at it. And I have a lot more I can do on this topic if you ever want it. I call it meaningfully engage individuals in their rooms, especially those living with dementia. That could be a whole webinar we do in Wyoming. If you want it, let me know. Also, make life more interesting. Think about when the new year rolls around at Walmart, you see all these journals, you know, more creative things to journal or to learn, you know, learn calligraphy. Here's the story of my life. There's lots of memory journal options out there. What if, check this out, what if you got this for one resident, try it out, or all of them, and you put a sticky note, or actually, if anyone flips through it, they would just see what's next. You know, they tend to be the next question. And as people have time, you could say, hey, Mr. Smith, where were you, you know, born again, or whatever the question is. What did you think about this? What's a memory from Labor Day? Did you do anything for Labor Day? And sometimes they're going to say no, but you never know what they're going to say. And you all help an older person. And again, it might not even be an older person, right? You help a person living in a nursing home to tell the story of their life. How amazing. So I also kind of want to say it's okay to put more energy into doing things individually with residents. And on your calendar, everyone, just fess up to it. You know what I mean? So people know why there's not a group activity going on at 2. It would say something like individual visits. Yeah, individual visits, something normal, not room visits because you're not visiting the room, right? Have fun with that. And here's another thing we've learned over the years. Figure out your true time that your budget gives you to work with. Don't commit to things you don't have time for. You add up full-time, part-time, and then you subtract meeting times, even gathering for groups. We're talking about groups with gathering, but minus out, when you got to go to meetings and shopping, and get at your true time. This is when you can spend time with the people who live there. And then do the math. How many people who live there do groups at all? So what's the percentage of groups? And then who needs one-to-ones? Only does one-to-ones. Who needs small groups? Figure it out. Do the math. Work on that. And then I always like to put in a plug for getting people outside. That is real life. That is healthy. I wish I had more time. We could focus on going outside. Check this out. What's the difference between real life? There's a campfire outside the nursing home in Olathe, Colorado, years ago. What's the difference between real life and institutional life? There's a big difference, isn't there? All right. And what do people really want? And there's some freebies right there for you. Everyone take a look at all those words, if you would, please, and some resources. Look at this. Also, recreational programs